Hello everyone and welcome to Monday. I am starting my vlog during my lunch break because this morning was really busy. I have not had a Monday morning that busy in quite some time. I ended up getting here, I probably left the house after 7 o'clock and then I got here like probably about 7:15, almost 7:20. So I got here way later than what I'm typically used to, and then I just had a lot of things to copy and a lot of things to be able to get done before school actually began. This week is a really exciting week for my students and for I think us as teachers too, because this week my kids are going to begin their applications and their resumes, and they're going to get to apply for their jobs. So they're going to have their interviews at the end of the week, and we're also going to have elections for JA Biztown. So we have a lot to be able to get done, and we also seem to have snow in our future this week. Crossing our fingers that we can end up getting everything accomplished that we need to get accomplished, because interviews and elections are happening no matter what on Friday. So we're gonna have to figure something out here. What we are doing with our kids today is we are getting them through the application process. Now with JA curriculum, they give you an application that you fill out, so they are picking out of 2 choices for the jobs that they would like to have. On Friday of last week, we actually sat the kids down and we talked about the applications, we talked about the resume, and then we also had them go through and look at the jobs and figure out what jobs that they would like to have. We had them kind of pick out 3, and then from that 3 they did the first 2 in their application process. Today the kids are going to get to finish their applications, and then they are going to finish their resumes. We're going to quickly check them, and then everything, the final copies, the final draft of everything, application and resume, is due on Wednesday afternoon. So they have to have that done by Wednesday. I am very excited about this. So I figured what I would do for this week's video is not only am I just going to take you guys through the week, even though I'm starting a little bit later here, but technically, y'all, it's still morning time. Like, it's still 11:10 in the morning. So technically I didn't start it that late. Anywho, but I figured what I would do is I am going to take you guys through applying for an actual teaching position. So I'm going to walk you guys through my resume, my applications, what did I do, we'll give you some kind of tips and some tricks there, and I'm going to show you mine that I did for this position here in Pennsylvania a little bit later on in the afternoon, so that hopefully if you're out there, this is the perfect time to start looking for jobs, because people are starting to kind of give their notice, people are starting to decide whether or not they're going to be staying in that position for the next year, people are switching around, they're applying for other jobs. So if you are out there and you are wanting to look for a teaching job, this video is definitely for you. So I have my next rotation right after lunch, and we are working on text structure. So we're going to continue going along with our paragraphs. The kids were supposed to have 3 different paragraphs completed with identifying the text structure, the main idea, and the key details. None of my group was able to actually get that done on Thursday. So what I think I'm going to end up doing is giving them some time during group today to be able to get that finished and turned in, so that I can kind of get an idea of how much are they truly understanding from what I'm teaching them within the group setting. After that, in JA, like I said, we're going to continue going on with the resume and the application process. They also need to take a mentor sentence test, so I do have that ready to go, copied for them today. And then for the next 2 groups, I have the Save Me a Seat that we're continuing to read, which I love. Your speech. Go ahead, baby. Awkward. So I have the Save Me a Seat book that we are reading, and we're going to continue reading that. My other group, which is reading How to Steal a Dog, they have just finished it, so we're going to go over it. They have a booklet that they completed, which is this one, that they're gonna have to go through and complete the rest of it and then get that submitted to me, and then I'm gonna let them choose a project to be able to show me a standard that they would like to show me. It could be anything pretty much. I'm gonna lay the standards out for them, and I'm gonna let them choose what is it that you want to do this project on. What do you feel like most drawn towards? Is it that you're wanting to do a summary? Are you wanting to kind of give me all of the elements of this story? Are you wanting to do the comparison and the compare and contrast? So I'm gonna lay the standards out to them, and I'm gonna let them kind of roll with it and determine a project that they have using this text that we have read together. So now that I have talked this much, I have 10 minutes left. I will catch up with you guys, not during my special time because I have a meeting. So at the end of the day, bye. Good morning and welcome to Tuesday. Last night I ended up staying just a little bit later. I got together with KT and we were going over our presentation that we have for this afternoon. We are having an MCL kind of MAC night where our principal is holding a night where families can come in and they can ask questions. We can give them some more information, and it is all around the MAC team. So we told our principal that we would end up staying, doing our little presentation that we did last year for families, that just kind of goes over and talks about, you know, what is the MAC team, how does it look different than a normal like vertical team that's in our district or in our building. And this is just a time for like those incoming fourth graders, like those families who are bringing in fourth graders next year. If they want to opt into the program, they can do so this evening. So we sat in and we kind of went over the presentation. We're really excited because this year, since it is like the first year for the MAC team, we have invited some of our learners from this year, combination of fourth and fifth graders, to go out and present to families this evening. So we were talking about their slides and what were they going to be presenting so that we can go over it with them today. And then we realized that we also have the PSSA like teacher test that we had to take. So we ended up taking that together as well. So I was very, like, I got a lot of things done and I was able to accomplish a lot. However, I was not able to really vlog anything in the afternoon. So I do apologize about that, but it's a teacher's life, y'all. That's just the way it is. This morning I got here at like almost my normal time this morning, which I am very excited about. I have a couple of things that I need to do. I need to go over and do some grading for a math test that I gave for my CPM. It wasn't really a test, it was a quick check just for me to kind of get a base or an understanding of what is it that my kids are knowing and where is it that they're still not quite understanding. So I gave them a quick check yesterday afternoon. I want to go ahead and get that graded, and then I have a couple of other things that I also want to make sure that I'm getting copied. I am really excited for one of my reading groups. So I have 4 reading groups in total. One that I have in the morning, that's one of my readers who are on like a second grade reading level, and then I have one that is working on informational, which I love doing informational, and they're doing a fantastic job. And that's what the road mapping that I showed you guys last week, and if you haven't seen it, you definitely need to go and check it out. And then I have 2 groups that are working on chapter books. Both of them are very different. Well, I have just finished up, my kids have just finished up with how to steal a dog. We've had a lot of great conversations about it. We've had a lot of, you know, back and forths on it because I've kind of posed some of those questions as, is Georgina a really bad person? Is she a bad person? She's committing a crime, so is she a bad person? So really getting them thinking about that, getting them thinking about their own beliefs, and kind of making some of those connections to the book, I feel like has really been a fantastic way to kind of get them engaged in the text. I want to do something that I have been wanting to do for a while. I am really big on choice and trying to get my students to be able to really take control of their learning and be able to articulate, you know, here is where I am as a student and here is where I want to go as a student. I feel like it's really powerful and it's beneficial for them, and it's teaching them responsibility. It's teaching them so many of those life skills that I feel like our kids struggle with. So here is what I have done. I have gone onto our site, and I don't want to show you guys too much because it is district info, so I'm gonna back it up. But I have gone into our site, and we have something called reportable standards, and what that means is that they've basically taken the standards for PA and they've made them student and parent friendly, and these are the standards that we're reporting on for our report cards. So it matches the PA standards, but it's just a friendlier version of the PA standards. So this is what they see on their report cards. It is very friendly. It's all verbiage that we use within the classroom setting, we use with parents, we use with the kids. So they've heard a ton of this. So I've gone online and I've printed out the reportable standards for 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. So 4th, 5th, 6th grade. I am going to present this to them this afternoon, and I'm going to say, listen, we have already done this. You know, we've read this book, we've had this great conversation. I feel like we've really kind of dug deep and been able to really analyze the text. Now I think it's going to be really beneficial for you to be able to build a project around it. So what I want you to do is I'm going to have them pick out 2 to 3 standards that they would like to show mastery in. So they're going to pick their own standards, and then they're going to create a project that revolves around that. So typically this is something the teacher would do. This is a very like teacher job where we would pick out the standards and we would say, oh, well, I'm gonna have my kids do a book report because I want them to be able to summarize. I want them to be able to tell me the plot of the story. I am flipping the roles here. I'm gonna give this to the learners. I want them to be able to see this is what you have to know in 5th grade. So now I want you to be able to pick out your standards, and I want you to revolve a project around it. So today we're gonna go over the standards. They're gonna get to pick it, and then I'm gonna leave them with 2 different questions. I'm gonna leave them with, what does this mean? So what will it look like? And then how will I show my mastery? So how am I going to show my mastery? What does this mean? And how will I show my mastery? And then we're going to discuss it, and they're going to start to kind of develop, and we're going to use graphic organizers to kind of help them develop some of these projects. But I'm very, very excited about it. And I think I'm going to be just sitting in with them and really making sure that they understand each standard and what is going to be expected of them. So I'll be doing a lot of conferencing with them for the next, week or 2. But I thought that would be such a cool way for me to start letting go of all of that like teacher led and really make it student led, which I feel like is extremely beneficial for our kids. So very, very excited about that. The other group, I am going to plan on doing it, but we just need to finish the text first. We haven't finished the text first, although it is a stinking good book. What I'm going to do this morning, I'm going to go ahead and grade my math and then make sure that I have everything that I need. I did want to say that yesterday we ended up just working on our applications and our resumes. So the kids were able, let me see if I can pull it out. These are blank copies. So here are the applications for JA Biztown. This comes in like the teacher book itself. Ooh, lighting. But it comes inside of the teacher book. The kids have already done like a rough draft. I've kind of gone through, have checked it, so now I'm going to hand it back to them, but they're going to write it in pen this time. So they're going to do it in pen. That's like the key here. So I have that piece. They're going to finish that today, but then I'm also going to be conferencing with them and getting their resumes fixed up and making it look better so we can get those printed. We need to start creating their folders for their interviews on Friday. Speaking of interviews, something that I did that I think would be really beneficial for all of you, maybe I'll just cut that out. I'm gonna do that later when I can like sit down and really show you guys some things. I will go over like my interview process, some of the questions maybe that I had, what did I bring to my interview, how did I even get the interview? I promise I will do that, and I most likely will either do it this afternoon or tomorrow morning, one of those. So hang on guys, if you're like watching this, I promise it's coming. So we did a rough draft copy of that, so the kids are going to be doing their final copy. I'm going to be sitting down with conferences, being able to look at the kids' resume. So I'm going to go through and edit their resume and make sure that everything looks kind of posh, it looks nice, it's ready to be printed so we can make their folders for Friday. So while the kids are doing that, I felt like I need my kids to do more practice of checkbooks and registers and deposit tickets. So we have somebody in the building who is, he's great, and he is like the king when it comes to JA Biztown, and he had created like all of this check it out practice, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you were so awesome, with like the practice checkbooks that we have. So I could do that. I have like two options in my head. I could give them their checkbook and let them practice with their checkbook and continuing that practice, or I could do this piece. I'm gonna turn you around, not my laptop. So the check it out practice, basically what it does is it starts with like, so start your register at a zero balance, then, you know, your mom gives you a $25 check to deposit, you don't take any cash out. It like takes them through a little scenario. And each time they have to record the register, and then they also have to record any checks and then deposit tickets. So what I did was I just went online and I was able to find the practice for their register, and then I found some JA Biztown, and you can see where I just put in like different check numbers here, and then I've also found the deposit ticket as well. So they have the deposit ticket, they have the checks, and then they have the register. What I'm thinking about doing is giving the kids the register practice with the checks and the deposit ticket. There we go, the lighting's better. And the deposit ticket and the checks. And I'm gonna have them, while I'm conferencing, working on that. What's nice is it does end up telling you, it tells you like, at this point your balance should be this. So if they're not getting that, then they need to go back and check it because they're doing something wrong. But at the very end of it, it asks them, you know, how much do you have as like your total now at this point. So it has to keep them, they have to kind of keep up with it and making sure that they're doing it right so that they can get the correct total at the very, very end. But it's good practice, and it's something that they can do while sitting down, and I could be checking in with resumes and making sure that I have both of those done. What we've been doing to kind of get them prepared, in the mornings for their morning meetings, I've been really going over that handshake. It's something that I've been doing since the very beginning of the year. I am very, very like, I need to have a really good handshake, and by golly George, these kids can give a stinking good handshake. But we're just going over how to introduce ourselves so that when we do come up to the table and they don't see one of us as teachers to introduce themselves into, like then we are having to making sure that they know what to say and how to say it when they go up and greet the person that is going to be interviewing them. So in the mornings we've been going over it, talking about that, going over, you know, how are you going to introduce yourself to the person who is sitting at the other side of the table when they are going to interview you, and then we're also asking some questions. So I'm getting them through asking questions, wanting them to be able to respond. How do we respond? Making sure we have that eye contact. I feel like all of this is Ron Clark stuff, y'all. All of this is the Ron Clark stuff that we've been practicing since the very beginning of the year. So I've been getting these kids ready since the beginning of the year, and they didn't even know it. I feel like a great teacher. All right, I'm gonna go do some grading and get some breakfast, and I will catch up with you guys like in a little bit. So this is typically my breakfast. I will make it when I get here, and I just kind of munch on it as I'm doing stuff. But lately I haven't been doing the granola because I didn't find a gluten-free one, but I went to a little market this weekend and they had gluten-free granola, which I was very excited about. Then I do vanilla yogurt, some bananas, and a little bit of honey on top, and it's so good. So I'm gonna eat this while I do my grading. And it's supposed to snow all day today, all day tomorrow. I came prepared. Holy moly. All right, best of luck. Hey y'all, and welcome to Snow Day Wednesday. It is full-blown snowing outside, and it has not stopped since yesterday morning when I started recording it a little bit. It's crazy. Guys, check out all of that snow. Look at all that snow. It's crazy, y'all. It's crazy. So what I figured out what I would do, because my kids right now are going through the JA process of getting ready, being prepared for like the interview process, I figured I would hop on today because I'm not at school and talk to you guys a little bit about my process and what I went through to be able to get my interview and be prepared for my interview here in Pennsylvania. Now, background history, if you do not know me very well. But I originally started teaching in Alabama. I graduated from the University of Montevallo with my bachelor's degree in elementary education. I was very, very, very fortunate because the school that I interned at is the school that I got my job at. I was beyond blessed. I was so thrilled. I loved every single minute of it. But we ended up deciding, I got married, ended up deciding that I was going to make a life change just for my family. So before I even married my husband, and while we were still living in Alabama, we were making a ton of trips to Pennsylvania, and I really loved the farmland. I loved the open space. I loved the old history of it. I thought it was just absolutely gorgeous, and I was like, well, why don't we just move there? And so my 4th year in Alabama, I decided I was just gonna make that life change. So to tell you guys about the little bit, some of the process that I went through, the first thing that I did was I went onto the state education website. I started to figure out, how do I need to go ahead and start getting certified in this state. I did have to take an exam. I did take that exam in Alabama, which was nice. You have to go through all your clearances once again. All of that good jazz has to kind of happen. And this is stuff that happens when you are in college and you're starting, you're getting your degree and you're almost finishing up your degree. Your university should take you through this entire process, but you will get your clearances. You will apply for your teaching certificate in that state. You'll have to take the state exam for it. Every state is different on their state exam. I know in Alabama, when I took it, I think it was like a praxis almost, but it was very knowledge of the subject areas. Whereas when I came here, it was knowledge of teaching. It wasn't so much the subject areas, it was, do you know good teaching practices? So they're all a little bit different. They all have study guides. I do recommend that whatever state that you decide to go in and start applying for, that you look up, find their study guides, download those, and start looking at those, and digging in and start doing some research on it. I also got to the point where I was getting so frustrated because I was like, I don't know if I'm doing this right, because you feel like you're in those websites and there's 1,000 things kind of going on. So finally I made the phone call to the State Department, and I was like, I don't know what to do. I am from Alabama. I'm trying to get my certificate here. And I had one of the sweetest ladies on the face of this planet kind of walk me through and help me. So if you are not getting your answers through the website, call and just hope and pray that you are going to get somebody who is going to walk you through the process. So once all of that was done and I had my certificate, so they sent it through their little portal, and I was able to go in and download my certificate. I was ready. I had my license. I was good to go. I started to look up the different districts. So here it's districts. In Alabama it was counties. So I started looking up the districts in the area that I wanted to apply at. Now I was really lucky because my husband grew up here, so he knew a lot about the districts and was able to kind of give me information and say, oh well, this is this type of district, this is this type of district. Now granted, that was a very long time ago, so districts have changed, people have changed, people have moved in and people have moved out, so everything was just a little bit different. But for the most part, I knew which districts I wanted to live in just based on how far I was willing to drive. We did not buy a house at that time, so I wasn't going to buy a house until I had decided where I was going to be. So I went through the whole process, and I went to every single district. Now, I think this is the same in Alabama, but I swear to y'all, I only applied to the county that I was in, and that was it. I didn't apply to any other county. No, that's a lie. I think I applied to 2 other counties that were pretty close to us. But here, every single district had their own application process. So first you had to go through the big huge state of Pennsylvania application. Don't remember what that is, but there was a big application from Pennsylvania, and then you had to go into every single district and then apply through there online. I did it. It was painful. I do recommend that you keep like a Word document, because a lot of them will ask you the same stinking question, and you have to write like a paragraph to 2 paragraphs to be able to answer some of those short essays. Didn't have to do that in Alabama. Pennsylvania, I definitely did. So I do recommend to you that you have like a Word document, create a file on your desktop that has like the different districts that you're applying for, all of your certifications. You know, you have your I think it's like child abuse certification, if I remember correctly, your federal certification, you know, showing that you've gotten, you know, your fingerprints done, showing that the FBI report has been done, you know, all of that. Y'all keep it onto your desktop, like in a little folder. And then that Word document where you go to answer your questions when you're applying at some of these districts, copy those answers and paste them into this Word document along with the question that it goes with, because I promise you, you are going to be writing so flipping much and you're gonna hate it. So this way you can copy and just paste it into some of the different districts, and then you don't have to like spend 2 to 3 hours trying to apply for one district. So there's my little tip for you there. So once that was done and I had applied to all of my districts, at that point, you know, I had my resume done, I had my cover letter done, I had my letter of recommendations done. I said, you know what, I'm gonna go to Pennsylvania. I was still living in Alabama at this time. I said, I'm gonna go to Pennsylvania during spring break, which was in March, and I'm just going to drop off resumes and see what happens. I did it in Alabama. I said, hey, I'm gonna try it here and see if it works. It kind of worked and it kind of didn't work, because a lot of the districts around here, which I did not know about, they wouldn't even let me in the door. They were like, you need to go to the central place. You need to go to like the central office. And I'm like, I just need to drop off a flipping paper. That's all I want to do is drop off a paper. And they would not accept it. Okay, so I wanted to show you, oh my gosh, sorry. I got like caught a little bit of light here. It's not sunny. Still snowing. So I wanted to show you guys what my little packet that I was dropping off. Now there's a lot of controversy out there about whether or not you create a portfolio for principals to be able to see kind of who you are as an educator. I decided to not create a portfolio, and the reason why is because I made the very bold move. I felt like it was bold at the time. I made the bold move to place my blog on my cover letter and my resume. So they were able to go to my blog and view posts that I've created about my teaching inside of the classroom. They could even click a link to go and see my videos, which was a little intimidating and scary. But I went on ahead and I said, you know what? The right person's gonna want me, and if they don't want me, then it wasn't meant to be. You know, there is a purpose and a reason for everything that happens in life. So I said, I'm just gonna do it and it's gonna be okay. So I made that very bold choice. Now, it's funny because we were just having a conversation about somebody in our school, and we brought up the idea again of like portfolios. Like, are people still doing portfolios? And my partner KT had a fantastic idea, because I feel like portfolios, if you're gonna come in and you're gonna give a principal a huge chunky binder, y'all, they're not gonna look at it. They have no time for that. They barely have enough time to be able to eat their lunch. Let's be honest. They're putting out fires all day long. They're dealing with parents. They're dealing with all the politics of it. They don't have time to look through your big chunky binder of all of your cute little scrapbookings and pictures and everything else that you've spent hours and hours and hours doing. Let's be honest, okay? So KT had this person that she knew, and this person created a website and had almost like a blog, but it was specifically their portfolio. And what they did is they created that QR code and they placed their QR code onto their cover letter and resume. I was like, that is genius. That is exactly what I did with my blog, except I put my blog up for fun. It's not meant as a portfolio, but it is meant to keep track of what I've done as a teacher and how I've grown, and to kind of share some of those things with all of you. So I said, that's fantastic. So I do strongly recommend recommend to you that if you are going to start applying for jobs, don't do a portfolio, okay? Show them that you know how to work technology. Create a website. You can find a ton of them for free. Blogspot is free. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, but you can also put all of your pictures, all of your writing, all of your lesson plans, place it up on that website, and then leave a link, do a QR code, put your, you know, whatever your URL is, place it on there so that they can go and check it out. And I'm going to come back to that in a little bit. So here's what my resume and my cover letter looks like. So the very first thing that I decided to do is I said that I wanted to kind of have something really nice for them to be able to place it in. I didn't want to just give them a chunk of papers that was stapled together. I just didn't think it looked professional enough for me. So I just went, purchased the clear, what are these things? I don't know. One of those things. And it was perfect, okay? So I bought a ton of these, and then I got some of my cover letters in print and my resumes printed. Now, I will tell you, I put a little washi tape that has snowflakes on it. How fitting is that? On top of some of my personal informations, just for like privacy reasons and all that yahoo. So when they opened it and they saw it, the first thing that they see is my cover letter. Now, keep in mind, I have my name. Like, people have gone back and forth on whether or not you put a picture onto your cover letter. Y'all, I did it because I feel like you're gonna want to see my face. I want to see your face. I want to see who you are. So I went on ahead and I put a picture up there. So you don't have to. People have gone back and forth about it, whether or not it's actually beneficial. I did it. So I don't know. When you take it off, you see my name really, really big. I have my address that I was going to be living at here in Pennsylvania. Then I put my cell phone number, my blog, my email, and then I had all of the information here of the principal that I dropped it off to. Y'all, I did a personal cover letter for every single school that I was going to drop it off at. So I had like this huge notepad of all of the districts and then all of the schools with all of the principal names and addresses and phone numbers written down on this notepad. And I created in each school and principal their individualized cover letter. I was crazy. I wanted a job. So I put the date here, the principal's information here, and then I had my cover letter here. So you can kind of see how long it was. I signed it at the end of each of them, okay? I don't know. I feel like you guys, if y'all wanted to end up reading it, you could end up pausing that and reading it if you wanted to. So that's kind of what my cover letter looked like. Behind my cover letter and my picture, big old face, my big old face right there, was my resume. I decided to not go with the most traditional resume. So again, I have my name really big, address, cell phone number, blog, email, and then I have 3 different spots here. Education that I felt like was important, a profile for me, and then some key skills that I really wanted to make sure that they knew that I was capable of doing. And because I only had one job, I put my one job right there. So I had my job, the dates here, I put a little blurb about it, and then I had key contributions down here, and these were some things that I tried to do while I was there at the school in Alabama. That was the only job I had. So that's what my resume looked like. Behind my resume, and I'm not going to show you a ton because it does have a lot of personal information, but I do have my my principals from the school that I was leaving. They wrote me letter of recommendations. So I have my letter of recommendations in there as well. Again, it's not a huge portfolio. It's nothing that's like, it's not chunky. It can sit on their desk, but it's also going to stand out. I wanted it to stand out. I wanted it to look different from all of the other ones that were probably sitting on their desk. I wanted them to be able to see it. So I try to make it look as different as possible. I didn't want to blend in with everyone else. So I ended up making my way for a couple of days. I think I spent about 2 or 3 days while I was here. 2 days probably. Going to every single school and dropping off my resume and my cover letter and letter of recs to principals. Now, like I said, there were a ton of people who turned me away and said, sorry, you need to go to the main office. We don't take paper copies. And that's gonna happen. Don't get discouraged, okay? Then I also, once I was done, I would go home in the evening. And while I was sitting there eating my dinner and, you know, everybody's kind of chit-chatting because I was visiting my mother-in-law at the time, so I'm at her house. I was sending out emails to those principals, okay, just saying, hey, I dropped my resume off. I saw that you have a job posting. You know, I am a very eager such and such person. I would really like to have the opportunity to be able to talk with you. I will be available until this date here. Then I'll be returning from Alabama, but then I'll be happy to do a Skype call with you. However, I don't remember how I worded it. It was short, sweet, simple, to the point. But again, I left my email, I left my phone number, and I left my blog link. So I remember sitting down, and it was one of my last nights. I was done sending, like, handing these out, and I was applying for another school that ended up having another posting. And it was the last day to be able to apply for that position in that district. So I went on ahead and I applied to it. As soon as I was done applying, I went on ahead and I sent an email out to that principal because I didn't have time to, I didn't have a copy for them. Wouldn't you know it, that principal clicked my link to my blog, clicked my link to my videos, and he sent me an email. It was probably like 9:30 at night, and said, hey, would you be available tomorrow morning? And I'm like, well, yeah, I'm available. But I was so excited, y'all. I was running outside. I was so beyond thrilled. It was just the right place at the right time with the right person. But yeah, that's kind of the process that I went through to be able to get an interview. I think the biggest keys were that I applied to every district, right? I also went through and I made the initiative to be able to drop some of these off so they could see my face. I wanted to see them, and it is so scary, y'all. Like, I am not joking. It is terrifying walking up to that school trying to get this principal to spend 2 seconds just to see you so you can hand it to them. And there were a lot of them that I did not get to see those principals, and I just gave it to the front person. I did what I could. And I then sent out emails. At the end of the day, afterwards, after I tried to visit their school, I sent out an email just saying that I was available, saying that I was interested, and if they had time, you know. It was crazy. It was so crazy. But that is kind of the process that I went through in trying to get the interview piece. I think the next time that I sit down with you guys and I start talking to you a little bit more, I'm going to give you some questions on how I can help you get prepared of some things they're going to end up asking you. I'm not going to give you all of them because every principal, every district, every state is going to be completely different. So, but I can hopefully give you some guidance and some reassurance of here's what they're going to ask you, and I might give you a little hint of here's something that I might say. But I did try to make it very, like, I wanted to be professional, but I also wanted them to see who I was as a teacher, and I wanted them to see the passion that I had for teaching inside of me. So yeah, that was a long story. I'm really loving my hair right now. I trimmed it up. I cut my own hair. Yes, I do. It probably looks awful. Hey y'all, it's Saturday afternoon, and I felt so bad that I did not vlog as much as what I thought I was gonna vlog yesterday. So Friday was the first day back since Tuesday, with all the snow that happened this week. And the kids had to interview on Friday. We have had this scheduled for a few weeks now. The parents knew, parents were coming in to help us do interviews with kids. And we were just like, you know what? We're just gonna roll with it. We're gonna go ahead and just throw our kids in the fire and be like, we're just gonna do it. we had gone back and forth about rescheduling it, especially with having so many days off, but we did send home like all of our sheets. We were sending out emails. We were like trying to stay in communication with parents saying, hey, make sure you go over the questions with your kids, because these are kind of the guiding questions for like what they're going to be experiencing in the JA interview. They all came dressed, ready to go. We had elections. It was so darn cute, and I thought I was truly going to vlog more than what I did. So I have one little clip from the morning. Insert that clip now. Today, ladies and gentlemen, is the day for us to have our interviews for our kids. So they're going to come in all spiffed up today. We are going to have interviews this morning, and the elections are going to be taking place this afternoon. So my partner came up with a nice little packet, and it says JA Biztown journal here. Really, it's just a spot for them to do some reflecting. So today they have like 2 different things that they can reflect on. One of them is going to be the job application and the resume writing. The second one is going to be the interview that they can reflect on, and then a few other pages, you can kind of see it here, like are some pieces that they'll reflect on from the day that they actually start to go out and have their business. We're going to give this to our guidance counselor so that she can keep it for our career readiness folders that we have to have for our kids. So it's nice and easy for us to be able to just say, here it is, like there's the stuff that we've done to get them college and career readiness ready. Career ready. They're gonna have their interviews this morning. I also need to make sure I check off to see that I have their applications, and then the kids this morning are gonna get split into 2 different rooms from the 3 of us. So one of the classes is gonna get split so that one of the teachers can go between the rooms and start pulling kids so that those kids can go out and have their interviews done, and then everybody else can kind of be sitting in the rooms. A lot of the kids still need to finish resumes. A lot of the kids still need, they can be working on the reflection pages. Some are going to be working on their speeches. Some of them are just going to be flat out nervous. So they probably won't be able to focus. That is kind of what's happening this morning. I am very excited about it. I can't wait to see them all dressed up and spiffed up. Today is our 1 jeans day for the year, the month. It's like United Jeans Way, so I have my jeans on, which I am pretty excited about, and all comfy cozy. I did get a lot of grading done last night, so I want to get all of those papers filed away so then I don't have to look at them anymore. Anyway, so I wanted to kind of tell you guys as I was doing this that I am such a naughty person, because I'm not joking, y'all. I feel like I am itching to change my room. I don't know if it was just because I was like at home for 2 days and I was probably losing my mind, because I don't like to be at home for very long. Like, I enjoy coming to work. But I was itching to like rip down the wall, change some colors. And I really want to think about doing it before the end of the school year so that I can take pictures of it and have them up and like ready to go. Is that awful of me wanting to do that? Not to mention that I also had about like 10 things that I want to do at my house. I told my husband I wanted like a shiplap wall with black paint. I wanted to like paint the bedrooms. I want to put this one shelf inside of the kitchen. Like, I have all these dreams, guys, and I just need somebody to do them. Focus, Bridget. And then I had a few clips in the evening where I ended up staying late with Katie and another teacher of ours, and we were trying to sort the kids into their jobs. Y'all, we stayed from the time the kids left, so let's say like 4 o'clock. So from 4 o'clock until 8:30, we were putting kids into their jobs, and it was so flipping hard, because of course all the kids decided that they all wanted to be DJs or they all wanted to be photographers, and it was really hard, because we also needed some really strong kids to be our CEOs and CFOs for businesses. We had to make sure that we had, you know, all the businesses filled up, and so we were trying to give the kids their first choices, but then, you know, it had to go like to second, sometimes even the third choice, which was kind of sad. But it was flipping hard, and I truly thought I was gonna vlog more, and I just did not get around to vlogging more because there was a lot going on, and I was just like, go, 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 go. So I am doing it now. I'm gonna vlog now. And I really just wanted to insert this in here today because I told you guys that I was going to go over maybe some questions for you as far as if you were to go out and try to get an interview. I already talked to you guys a little bit about like my process that I went through to try to get that interview, and the questions that I'm going to give you now are the questions that you are going to have when you have the interview. So these are possible questions that principals could ask you. These were questions that my two principals, when I had both of my interviews, asked me. So I just kind of wrote those down, and I have 12 of them on this little piece of paper. I have 12 questions that principals could potentially ask you. And what I am going to end up doing is I'm going to place this into a document. So I'm sharing that document with all of you if you want to print it out and kind of, you know, type in some of your answers, get your thoughts out on paper, and then kind of polish it up so that you know you have like certain key points that you want to address. So let's get into it because this is going to be really, really long. So the very first question is, tell me a little bit about yourself. I think what's important here is that you tell them about, you know, if you were that kid that was like, I'm going to be a teacher for the rest of my life. Like, you have always thought you were going to be a teacher. That's a really good point that you can place in there. You can talk about any volunteering that you do. What are some of your hobbies? They kind of want to get to know you as an individual and as a person outside of school and not just in school. So this is that really great time of telling them, you know, here are some things that I like to do. Here are some of my hobbies. Here are some of my passions in life. And, you know, here's kind of how I've gotten to this point to where I am today and why I want to be a teacher. So kind of sum all of that up for them in that question. The second question, I'm not going to go through and answer every single one, y'all. I'm sorry, because it's going to be a super duper long video. I'm just going to give you points. So if you're going through this and you're like, I have an interview coming up in the next 3 weeks, then I would definitely print this little paper out and then write down some of the points that I'm giving you. The second question that I have says, what would the first day of school look like and sound like for you if you were to have a position here? I think my first job asked me this question. I'm not sure if my second one did. I can't remember, to be honest. But I think what's some really important key points that you would want to make sure that you emphasize on is that you're working on building the community. You know, it is a day of you being able to get to know each other, get to know the kids, building on that community, giving them some of those smaller routines, but you're not trying to overwhelm them with routines, because guys, you throw too much at them at one point. And then I'm talking about kids. If you're throwing too many routines at one point, they're not going to know it. They're not going to be a well-oiled machine after that first day. You put in some key points, maybe having some really fun team building activities, but you're really focusing on building that community. You're really focusing on building that relationship with your students and for your kids to be able to get to know one another. That's what your first day is all about. So really emphasizing that piece of it. All right, question number 3 that they could potentially ask. What would your reading block look like and sound like? For me, I think what's really important here is that you're saying every kid's going to have a book in their hand. Every kid is going to have a book in their hand that, depending on like the grade level that you're teaching, it could be a book that they are truly passionate about. It may not be on their level, but they are so engulfed in that book because it is something that they love and that they're passionate about. So they have those books in their hands. You have other kids who are working with partners and that they're reading together, maybe doing an echo reading, or they're doing a seesaw read, and they are reading a just right fit book so that they're practicing on that fluency. You have other kids who are, you know, just kind of talking about some of the pictures in their stories. But the whole point here is that kids are talking about books because this is what we want in our reading room. As a teacher, you're over there in a small group setting, you're pulling kids, really working on a set focus skill for them. Or if you're in the lower grades, you have that kind of guided reading group where you're really taking them through the process of reading and kind of helping them to be able to become stronger readers and showing them what good readers do. Again, this is something that we want our rooms to look like. So I think like those kind of are your key points. You want them to know that you're going to have kids talking. You want them to know that there's going to be a book in their hand. Y'all, it's not about the worksheets. It's not about the tests. It's not about sitting there and, you know, that they're answering questions after they've just read this book. Oh, I've just read this book. Now I got to go answer my 15 questions so I can get a point and a sticker on my little chart. No, you don't want to do that. But it's more about the fact that you have kids who are interested in stories, who are talking about stories, who are then, you know, maybe writing things down. They're putting things on post-it notes. That's kind of your key points that you will want to make sure that you address during that question. Question 4, what current books are you reading? I think both principals asked me this question. Pretty sure both of them asked me. And I think what's important to put here is making sure that you do have a professional book that you are reading. Know some different titles that you think are going to be really good books that are maybe not forward thinking, but they're going to help you as a teacher and that are going to help you grow as an educator. You know, you could put out Leaders of Your Own Learning, reading strategies books, but you can also share with them what are some books that you read kind of on the side. As a reader, do you hear my kids? Oh, go away.
Love you.
But I also think that it's really important that you insert some books that you are just kind of reading for fun. Maybe some children's books that you find really, really fascinating, whether they be chapter books or just non-chapter books, books that you're just really interested in. Maybe throwing in some authors that you're interested in as well, but do have some books that you are prepared to like discuss, because it will end up asking you, well, why don't you tell me a little bit why you chose that book? Or, you know, tell me a little bit about that book. They're going to ask those follow-up questions. So make sure you're on your toes and you know about the book. You didn't just like look it up on the internet and say, this is the one that I'm going to pick. So do have some books kind of in the back of your pocket, just knowing that, hey, they could potentially ask me what is it that I'm currently reading as like a professional book or a non-professional book at this time. Question number 5 is, tell me a time that you had great success with a student in your classroom. Again, I think during this point, they want to know just kind of what is it that the child was struggling with? What were you noticing about that child, and what were some of those moments? I feel like these were always the hardest questions for me to answer. Think of some kids, kind of jot them down off to the side, because like in the heat of the moment, like when they're asking this question, you're like, holy crud, I feel like there are 5 million moments where I was like, oh, this is sweet. But make sure you write one down, just so that you kind of do know that if they do ask you that question, you're not stuttering over your words. But I feel like in this point, they want to know, what is it that the student was struggling with? What is it that you were noticing? And then what key steps did you take in order to help that child feel successful so that they were no longer struggling the way that they were? I feel like we all have these moments in our classrooms. We get them every single day, I feel like, but it's the point of just writing it down, just kind of knowing that when you do head into that interview, you have a story in the back of your mind that you could tell, that you're not just sitting here stuttering over yourself. Because this is one where I would typically I would stop myself and I'm like, I need think time. Because I'm like, I have to think of one at the top of my head because I was never really prepared for it. So be prepared for it. Number 6. Is how do you communicate with parents? They're gonna most likely, any school district that you're gonna go to, they were gonna ask you something about family involvement, parent communication. So make sure that you do have an idea of how you are gonna communicate with parents. I feel for this question, some key points that I would make sure is that you're communicating maybe like on what type of a basis. Is it a weekly basis? Is this a monthly basis? Is this like a green folder every Tuesday where you're giving them some type of progress information on their child? But then also letting them know, this is how I'm communicating some of these things. Whether that you're gonna be able to have like a communication folder to make sure that, you know, a parent knows exactly where they can find information or look for information if you have something that's going on in the classroom. Maybe it's the fact that you have a Twitter or, you know, an Instagram account that you're going to be able to put up some of those feeds. Maybe having a classroom website, something to that extent that will let them know that, oh, she's not just going to do paper, but she's going to do paper and she has technology. And then also make sure that you reiterate that at the beginning of the year, I will be able to take note of any parents that do not have internet service at home, so that I can always make sure that I'm providing them with information that is not only, you know, coming responding to that on paper, but that's also available online. So you're giving parents several different options for them to be able to go find the information that you're doing in the classroom. I think that's like the biggest key point. All right, question number 7 is, what is your behavior management plan? For me, this is what I believe, but I don't think that this is the type of question where they're asking, or what kind of, system inside of your classroom do you have, as far as like, do you have a clip system? Do you have like a punch card system? I don't think they really want to know that, okay? That's not kind of the nitty gritty of it. For me, I feel like what they want to know is that you are focusing on positive behaviors. So how is it that you are going to focus on those positive behaviors? How are you noting some of those positive behaviors? What are you doing when you do have a behavior that you have to redirect? How are you following up with that student? Are you simply saying you need to move and go here? Or are you sitting down with that student and saying, this is what I am noticing. Here's what I need for you to do now. So talking a lot about that piece, that positive, that redirecting, having the discussions with the students in regards to their behaviors, and how we can start problem solving to be able to not have the behavior once again. So what are some things that we can fix, and how can I help? How can we both work together so that we're not continuing to have this behavior in the classroom? I think those are the biggest and the key points, but that positive behavior is absolutely important. And again, you can throw in a little information, and hey, this is how I plan on communicating this information with parents, whether it be through Class Dojo, or you have a calendar inside of their progress notebooks, or you're going to be sending home on a weekly folder. At the end of the week, you're going to send home their progress, but letting them know that you do have some kind of an idea of how you are going to be managing your classroom. Okay, so the next question is a lot like the one that I asked about great success, but I don't know 100% if a principal would ever really ask you this. I think the majority of them has always asked me, like, what was a great success for you? So in case they ask you the question of, what was a time that went poorly for you? Like, when did you kind of, tell me about a lesson that just didn't go right, or tell me about a time with a student that just didn't go right. How did you handle that situation? And I think that they're going to go more towards not the student, but going more towards like a lesson plan that just didn't go well. Well, what did you do? I could say, hey, so here's kind of what happened. I noticed that the students were doing this. It wasn't, working well as far as classroom management here. So I was quickly able to kind of redirect my students, bring them back to the area, us to have like a discussion of, hey, what is it that just isn't going well here? What do you think we could do together as a group to be able to fix this? Because I'm noticing that we're not being able to, stay focused, or everything's kind of a mess, or, everybody's trying to grab materials and it's just a hot mess inside of your classroom. But telling them that you were able to kind of quickly redirect the class, get their attention back, and get them away from anything that was happening, that situation that was happening. And then tell them that you were able to kind of have that discussion with students, and then from there, you were able to really quick kind of think of a different plan. So almost like a backup plan of what is it that you could have done in place of that lesson. So having those discussions with your kids, I think, is really important, because for me, whenever I do mess up with one of my kids, I'm upfront with them. I'm like, hey guys, I don't think this lesson is going very well. I had in my head that this was going to work a different way, but here's what I'm noticing now. I was like, so what do you guys think? How do you think we can problem solve this? Because I feel like this isn't going the best way that we could have it go. And having that discussion with kids, because y'all, kids are smart. They come up with all kinds of great ideas, and I'm like, this is good. As a big class is really important, because it also helps to build that sense of community, which is incredibly valuable in the classroom. Okay, so the next one is to describe a day in your classroom. Tell me like what I would see if I was to come and spend a day in your classroom. Again, I think hitting those points where you're going to have a lot of kids working in collaboration. It's going to be very student-centered. They're going to be working with, higher level thinking, higher level questionings. They're going to be engaged in any content that you are giving them, and they're going to be collaborating inside of smaller groups or with partners partners. They're also going to have some opportunities to practice that independently, but they're also going to be able to, you know, maybe have that cross-curricular and start bringing in some of that science and social studies into your reading block, or pulling in some of that science into your math block because it does fit for that day. So really pulling some of those key pieces out. That collaboration piece is really important. That cross-curricular is also important. Any of that type of verbiage that you can throw in there, I think principals would really think highly of you if you were able to do that. The next one is, how do you know that your students are learning? For me, this is you thinking, okay, well, they're wanting to kind of see, how am I going to be assessing my students? So is it going to be an informal? Is it a formal assessment? Are you going to allow them to, are you creating some type of a checklist here? Are they going to be turning in something? Are they going to orally be able to tell you something? Are they showing you something? Are they explaining something to you? So bringing out any of those depth of knowledge verbs would be really important in this key piece, but also trying to tell them that, you know, I have multiple ways that I assess my students, whether it be that I'm taking anecdotal notes, whether I'm making a checklist for myself, whether I'm doing just a quick check-in with the sticky notes, or that I have my kids actually completing a huge project to be able to kind of self-explain. Maybe it's the fact that you're telling them that they kind of pick their projects for this themselves. You know, I give them a wide variety of different options that they can do to kind of demonstrate their learning, and they get to pick one that they're interested in and that kind of speaks to them, and that's kind of a way for you to be able to provide some of that assessment and know that your kids are learning. But I think for me, I always try to make a point to my principals, hey, I'm not going to always have a pen and paper to my kids because I don't feel like it's going to be beneficial. Sometimes it could be simply that I'm making them sort something. It could also mean that I'm having them discuss something with a partner. Having that simple turn and talk is another way for you to be able to understand whether a kid is getting it or they're not getting it, because I guarantee you the kids that are not getting it, they're not turning and talking. They're sitting there and they're looking at each other and they're moving their lips a little bit, and you're like, you're not really saying anything. I feel like you're mumbling some, you know, I don't understand that. But I feel like for me, I just don't want my principals to know that I'm gonna have a pen and pencil to a paper and pencil to my kids all day long, because that's not who I am as a teacher. I want to give them lots of different opportunities to show understandings of learning, whether it be a simple just like lower level knowledge of them just sorting something, or if I'm going way higher where they're actually kind of creating something from scratch to be able to demonstrate that learning. But again, pull out your depth of knowledge, Webb's depth of knowledge, and I think that's going to really kind of impress and benefit you there. All right, I have two more questions. One of them is, how do you incorporate parent involvement? I think for me, I would say that you would have parents come in to be able to assist. And so, you know, at the beginning of the year, you ask if parents are available to kind of come in, if they're able to, you know, help outside of the classroom, if they're able to come and spend some time in the classroom at all, or if they're going to do field trips, or if they want to be like, you know, the party planners, or however it is that you have like some type of a paper that you send out to parents to kind of get an idea of what type of parents that you have and what kind of involvement that you can create inside of your classrooms. Because you do want all families to be involved, and there are some families that are not able to actually come into your rooms and sit down and kind of help you there, but they really do want to do it. They just work all day, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's an average family, I feel like, nowadays. So let them know that you do want to try to give them opportunities to be able to help and have some of that involvement inside of their kids' classroom, even though, you know, they can't come in. Like, you want to be able to kind of express that piece to them. But sending out that kind of paper, you can say that you're going to have parents come in and volunteer during certain, you know, projects, that you're going to have opportunities for parents to be able to come and share some of their expertise for when we're pulling in science and social studies curriculum. You can have parents come in and read stories once a month. I think we did... At one point, I think I did like an every other week, I had a parent come and read a story from our like collection of picture books that was like their theme for that month. So a parent would come in and we set up like a calendar, and they came in every other week and they read a book with the kids, and the kids freaking loved that. Like, we had like a mystery person, and the little mystery person had like, they had to figure it out. We gave them clues and they had to figure out whose parent it was that was going to come in. It was so adorable. There was also the time when I had different giveaways for parents, and it was something little. Like, it could have been, you know, hey, we're working on how-to pieces with your child. I want you to come up with, you know, what is a how-to that you know how to do, and kind of send it in. It can be on an email, it could be on a sticky note, you can kind of write it out on a piece of paper. Some parents went above and beyond with it, and they would send some really great pieces, but you would have, you know, them send something in that was relating to what you were learning about in the classroom. The kids got to share, and we had them kind of displayed in the classroom. And then finally, for those parents who did share, we put them all in a pot. I pulled it out, and whatever it was, it could have been like how to make a pizza. I could have sent home like a pizza with that family, and they could have had pizza and a movie with their kids that night. So I mean, like, it's simple little things like that that also gets their parents involved. The kids really love it, and I don't know, it's just a great way to get them doing things in the classroom without being in the classroom, if that makes sense. So the very last question that I have for you guys is, do you have any questions for us? They always ask this, and I say you need to have some questions prepared. Go in with a piece of, like, not a paper, maybe like a notepad or a binder or a notebook or something to that extent that has some questions written down. But do your research, kind of get to know the school, and I wouldn't ask questions that are very like point blank. How many kids do you have? If you can look it up, then don't ask it, because that's not going to be a great question for you. I did come up with some questions for you guys, and I also have these on that document that I'm sharing with you. So some really great questions to ask is asking about their school culture. So what is your school culture like? Another question is, what qualities are you looking for in a teacher? So what are some things that they're looking for that they really feel like would benefit their team, to kind of help them, so you kind of get an idea of what they need. Maybe it's a very younger environment, maybe it's a bunch of older, like some older veteran teachers, and they want to get some new young blood in there. I don't know, you never really know. Ask about district strengths, ask about class size, and describe student population. Like, you know, what is your student population like? You can get information there. Ask about technology, and what type of technology do they have available in the school, where they like to go with technology, and then always ask and see if they have some type of a school discipline plan. Most other times they do have some type of plan, like school-wide, so be sure to ask that as well, because that'll give them some really good information. They'll give you good information, because not only are they interviewing you for this position, but you are interviewing them for this position. You want to make sure that this school is going to be a perfect fit for you. So that is incredibly important, y'all. So that is it, y'all. I hope that you guys found this incredibly helpful. If you are out getting ready to look for a new job, or if you are somebody who has been in the exact same school for, you know, 10 or 15 years, and you're about to venture out and finding a new job, I think for the most part, I have a video about the interview process, and if I do, I will definitely link it down below. So check out the description box for any other videos that kind of are related to this. But I hope you guys found it beneficial. It was so cute. We were talking with the kids, and we went through and we talked about, hey, like, what if they end up asking you, like, myself and KW were like sitting down, and she was like the interviewer and I was the student. We kind of took them through the whole process early in the morning, showed them the handshake and how to greet, how to introduce themselves and sit down, and I'm like, don't you lean your back back, and they all sat down on the edge of their seat with their back straight up. It was so darn cute. And they were like, she goes, well, what kind of school activities do you participate in? And I said, well, as of right now, I do not participate in any school activities, but what I think I would like to start doing is this. So we had that conversation of, if you're not doing something, always kind of follow up and say, but this is what I would like to start doing, so that you're not just saying nothing and just sitting there. But it was so darn cute, and they did such a great job. We were very, very impressed with them, so they did phenomenal. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and end this video here, because I'm afraid it's gonna be so flippin' long. I hope that you guys found this beneficial. I hope you were able to pull a little bit of information out of it. And if you did enjoy it, please make sure to give the video a thumbs up. And I will see you all next week. Have a good weekend.